Hey, what's going on? This is Minister Gold. I stream every day on Twitch. I play Kaizo and variety games. This is a mix-up tutorial on how to show your YouTube subscriber numbers on stream and have them update regularly. I'm doing this because of a request in one of my videos. Um, in my video on how to set up a follow notification that ignores bots, I had a request from Live Duke Tutorials. He wants to know how to set this up, so I'm going to go through that process and show you how, and hopefully it benefits you as well. Okay, now, unfortunately, we cannot do this the ideal way. The ideal way would be to use a service called IFTTT, if this, then that, where you can say, if a user subscribes to my channel on YouTube, then do this, or do that, whatever, where that would be um, send a signal to Mixitup's API to run my command that updates my YouTube subscriber count so that it would only run when we get a new subscriber. We can't do that because the URL that Mixitup's API starts at is on your local host on your PC, and IFTTT requires a URL that is public. And if it's on your PC only, it is not public, so we can't do that. Instead, we need to set up a timer that goes off every so many minutes and makes a request to YouTube to get your subscriber numbers. And then we'll be updating a text file, and that text file will show the update on OBS on your screen. Okay, so let's go to our commands and I'll show you what my command looks like. I have a YouTube command here. If yours is called YouTube and gets your YouTube URL, your channel URL, then you'll probably want to come up with a different name. But I'm not using YouTube as a command to get my YouTube channel, so yeah, I'm not changing it. Okay, let's click on the pencil and I'll show you what this command looks like. Okay, so remember, the drop downs where you add various actions, or where you select the various actions, hit the plus sign to add that action. At the top here, I have a special identifier. I'm not gonna show it to you because it has my API key, and when you get your API key, you need to keep it to yourself. Don't show anybody else, it's for your eyes only, okay? But basically, I call it API over here on the left. On the right, I put in the value of my API key. And I will show you how to get an API key in a little bit after I go over this command. Add a web request action. Now, you are going to use the same URL, except two pieces are going to change, okay? So everything up to this ampersand, that's staying the same. Actually, no, up to the equal sign. Okay, after the equal sign, you need to put in your channel ID, okay? When you go to YouTube Studio, at the very end, you'll see your channel ID. That has to go here. After key equals is where your API key will go. Okay. Now under response processing type, this dropdown defaults to plain text. You want it to be instead JSON to special identifiers. Okay. Now I'm going to show you what the data looks like when you put this in your browser. Okay. And further, why this looks like this. Okay. I'll have to talk a little bit about code and hopefully you'll get it. Okay. Give me 1 sec while I get a screenshot. I'll post it in Paint. I'm doing that because I don't want you to see my API key, but I can still show you the data this way. Okay, let's zoom it in. Okay, so here's my data. Okay, that is what you get when you put that URL into in the address bar in your browser. Okay, and let's bring this up over here. Okay, so items refers to this array right here. Okay, now what is an array? I'll show you real quick. two examples of an array. Actually, one example of an array. An array has these square brackets, okay? An array has a list of items, okay? So it could be numbers, it could be true, false values, it could be letters, it could be variables, objects, other arrays, okay? But here's a simple example, okay? So A, B, C, D. This is an array of letters only. It doesn't have a mix of values, okay? Or of strings, rather. Now arrays are zero indexed. What that means is it starts counting at zero. So in your head, if you don't know anything about coding, then you might go like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. That is not how we're counting in an array. Instead, we're going 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay? That's how we are counting in an array. Okay? So you have an array right here indicated by the square brackets. Okay? So if we only had items here, we would get this entire thing. Okay? Now we put a backslash and say 0 because this object is at the 0 index. There's only one item here, so at the 0 index, backslash statistics will get us this object right here. And then backslash subscriber count will get us the value for subscriber count. So 56. Okay? So that is how we are accessing data in this object. And sorry, object is indicated by the curly brackets. Okay? And over here in the special identifier name, I'm just calling it items. Okay? Next, now the chat message is just to show you that it works. Okay? So I have $ items here. If I press play later, you'll see that it'll output how many YouTube subscribers that I have. Okay, and then next we're going to add a file read write action. And right here we have my text file where my YouTube subs will go. And the first thing it's going to do is it's going to remove the first line. It's removing the first line because we were going to put the new amount of subs in the next, or in that same line. Okay. We're putting old sub here, not because we're going to be using this value, but only because in order to actually save the command and mix it up, it requires you to put some name here for the special identifier, but we are not going to use it. Okay. Now, since we're talking about my YouTube subs text file, let me show you that real quick. That is not right. So this should actually be 0. Okay, so I initialize it with 0. That's what you're going to do initially, just put 0 there. I think the reason why I said $ items was because I was probably testing and I probably just pressed play on just one of these. But in any case, it'll start with 0. And then in our next file read and write action, we're going to insert in file at specific line on line number 1 into the same file. It's going to be $ items, and $ items is going to be 56. So let's go look at my text source in OBS just to show that it works. Okay, so here says 0, text file says 0. I'm going to hit play, and as you saw in the data, it shows 56. Let's see, can I put this over? Let's make this smaller so you can see. Okay, there you go. So play. Okay, so there you go. It updates. Okay, so that is the YouTube command. Okay, so now let me show you how to get an API key for YouTube. So let's save this, and actually let's turn off the chat message. Let's just show you that it works. And save. And let's go to YouTube. Okay, so I will leave this link in the description. You're going to go here, follow these steps in the before you start piece. This will help you get your API key for YouTube. I'll go through some of the steps with you because some of it might be confusing to navigate through. So you have to have a Google account. I think you can do that on your own. Get that set up. If you already have a YouTube channel, then you already have it. If you have Gmail, you already have it. And then in step number 2, we're going to go to the Google Developer Console. Okay, I'm going to move this to another window or another screen for a second, just to make sure I don't show you any sensitive data. So just give me 1 second here. Oh, you know what? Actually, first what I can show you is click on Enable APIs and Services. And just search for YouTube, hit enter. Okay, there you go. So click on this one, YouTube Data API v3. For me, it's already enabled, but for you, it'll be right here to enable it. Okay, and then next, you want to create a project. To do that, 1 second. To do that, you're going to click on this drop down right here to the left of the search field. New project. For whatever reason, you have to click it more than once, at least in my case. Maybe it's because it's still loading. Okay, so just call it whatever you want. I just called it Mix It Up and then create. I'm not going to create it because mine's already made. Okay, next is the credentials piece. I need to hide some of my window so I can show you that without showing you my API key. Okay, so yeah, you're going to click on credentials on the left side here. Then you click on create credentials, API key. So I'm going to be deleting this, but we're going to restrict the key. Give it whatever name you want, whatever you think makes sense, YouTube. And then at the very least, you want to set an API restriction. Click on restrict key. Click on the select API dropdown. Just type in YouTube to start. And then there is your YouTube Data API v3. Click on that. OK. And then save. Make sure you copy your API key. Maybe save it on your computer if you don't want to keep coming back here. For me, I don't need it anymore, so I am going to delete it. And that is how you make your API key. And then again, just as a reminder, let's go back. The API key that you just created is going to go, if you have the special identifier, it's going to be in here. API on the left, API key over here, and in your web request, it'll be either your special identifier API, your API special identifier will go here, or the API key itself will go here after key equals. Okay, and now your YouTube command should be good to go. Okay, now as far as getting it to automatically update, first what I'm going to do is let's the wrong one. Let's set this to. Let's close this for a second. Okay, so right now this is 56. We'll set it back to 0 because I'm going to turn on a timer, which I'll show you how to set up. So now it's back at 0. Okay. Okay, so we're going to click on the top left here. We're going to go to timers. Now you're going to click on new command. I already have my YouTube command here, so I'll just show you what I did there. Now I've set it at an interval of 1 minute, so that means every minute it's going to be updating your, it's going to be running your YouTube command. Also put it in a YouTube command group. Make that command group so it only applies to your YouTube command. And I just called it YouTube subs. And then from the action dropdown, I grabbed the command action. So run command, it's a chat command, and then YouTube, save, and that is it. Let me turn it back on so it can run. Now, while we're waiting, you remember I set it to 0. I'm going to talk to you about something else while that's happening, and we'll take a look and see if it's back at 56. But there's something important that I have to talk to you about, and that is that there's a limit to using the YouTube API. If you go over that limit, you will get charged. So let me show you. So what you want to be aware of are the YouTube API limits, okay? Now the limit is 10,000 units per day, okay? So the natural question for you to ask is, okay, how many units does grabbing my subscriber count take up? So if we go to the quota calculator, this shows you how many units every little activity, API activity for YouTube costs, okay? So let's scroll down to subscribers, or subscriptions rather. So inserting costs 50, delete costs 50, listing costs 1. We're not inserting, we're not deleting, so we're listing. So every time you are grabbing your subscriber numbers, it'll cost you 1 unit. And what that means is even if you had a 24-hour stream and you had it run every minute, you would still be well below your quota. You would be at like 1,500 units out of 10,000. So you'd still be good. So if you want to run it every minute, you can. If you think it's overboard, you can run it every like 5 or 10 minutes. But just so you know that there are limits, okay? I will put this link in the description as well. Now let's see if my YouTube numbers have updated. And they have. While we were talking, it updated. So there you go. Okay, so that is pretty much it. That is how you set up. Oh yeah, by the way, what I should also mention is that, of course, make sure you set up your text source. I call it YouTube subs. Make sure it's reading from file. Browse, get your text file that's dedicated to updating your YouTube subscriber numbers. And now that's it. So let's do a quick review, and that should be pretty much it. Okay, so we make a, let's go to commands. You're going to make a command for updating your YouTube text file, your YouTube subs text file. If you want to, make a special identifier and put the API key there. Otherwise, put the API key in your web request. Use this URL. Make sure the ID is your channel ID. And I never went over where to get your channel ID, so let's talk about that right now. So if you go to studio.youtube.com, you'll see that your channel ID is right after channel /, okay? So right here. That is your channel ID. And that is what is going right here. Okay. Make sure that the response processing type is set to JSON special identifiers. This is the notation that you use to navigate through the object in the arrays to get your subscriber count. Give your subscriber count a name. Could be like subscribers, could be items, whatever you want to call it. The chat message is just for testing purposes. You can turn that off. Remove the first line from your subs text file, then insert a line, and that is going to be your subscribers special identifier, where here I called it items. Okay, and before this is actually going to be complete, you have to make sure that you get your API key. To get your API key, you have to go over here and follow the steps. you are going to, after you've created an account, you're going to go to the console. You're going to create a project. Just waiting for it to load here. You're going to create a project here. Okay, may have to click it a couple times because it takes a while to load. Go to Enable APIs and Services and select YouTube Data API v3, I believe it's called. And then go to Credentials and create credentials and make sure you're restricting your API to just that API, the YouTube Data API v3. Okay, what's the exact name again? YouTube Data API v3. Okay, yeah, so make sure that's turned on. After you go through that process, you'll get your API key and make sure you put it right over here after key. Okay. And then you need to make a timer command. Click on the menu, go to timers, click on new command. You can call it like YouTube subs, give it its own group. So if the timer is just for your YouTube subs. Make it 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever makes sense to you. In actions, select the command action, hit the plus sign to add it. Run command for the type. Likely it will be a chat command. Look for that command and select it. Hit the save button. And then in OBS, make sure you add a text source. Make sure it is reading from file, and it is reading that YouTube subs file that you made for it. And if you do all that, then it'll automatically update to show your new YouTube subscriber numbers. Okay, and that is the process. I know it's a lot to chew on, and hopefully it all makes sense, and it's the way that I've explained is easy to understand. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you like the content, please leave me a like. And if you'd like to either see more of my content that I'm creating, or see the questions that other people are asking that I'm making videos for, please subscribe and please make any requests that you have for videos in chat. And that is it. All right, thank you. Adios.